He ain't even looked nervous. Didn't shift in his chair, didn't clear his throat, just leaned forward, pointed at me with that coffee-stained folder and said, "You're done here. Pack your desk." Right there, in front of the whole office. Monday morning, payroll meeting, people froze. Some looked at their shoes like they suddenly got shy. A few even turned away, like watching me fall might get them caught in the wreck too. I didn't move. Not at first. I just looked at him, at that slick little tie he always wore like he was the king of something. He smirked like I was a stain he finally scrubbed out. "You heard me. You're done." That's when my hand reached for my ID badge. Took it off slow. Didn't slam it. Didn't throw it. Just placed it on the table real calm and walked out without looking back. Folks been asking me what I felt in that moment. Rage? Shame? Nah. I felt free and real quiet. See, when somebody tears your name off a door like it's tape, you realize that name never belonged on their wall to begin with. Now let me take you back. Before the suits, before the bank meetings, before folks started addressing me as sir and offering coffee I ain't asked for. Let me tell you what it felt like to give 12 years to a place and get tossed like day-old bread. I started at Ironcrest Logistics when they were just 6 folks in a warehouse with more leaks than forklifts. Back then, I came in with a mop in one hand and a GED in the other. I learned quick, stayed late, fixed systems I wasn't trained for just because nobody else would. By year 3, I was running the entire operations floor. No title, no raise. But when something broke, they called me. When numbers didn't add up, they handed me the spreadsheet. When things got done right, well, they smiled at themselves. And I ain't complain. I was raised on the kind of pride that don't ask for applause. Mama used to say, "You keep your head down, do the work, and let God sort the rest." So that's what I did. Until that Monday morning, when all my loyalty got packed into a cardboard box with a stapler, a chipped mug, and a notebook full of plans they never cared to read. That walk out the building felt longer than 12 years. Felt like I was carrying everything they never let me say. But here's the funny thing. They thought they was getting rid of me. Truth is, that was the day I stopped being their employee and started becoming their replacement. 12 years. That's how long I gave them. Through budget cuts, office moves, busted ACs, and 3 different bosses, who all somehow got younger and whiter each time. I ain't never missed a shift, even when my back was out. Even when my cousin passed, and I had to bury him on a Saturday, I was back Monday, first one in. Didn't ask for praise, didn't want no pity. Just figured if I did right by the work, one day the work would do right by me. Turns out I figured wrong. I remember the first time they overlooked me for a promotion. I was 6 years in, had trained 2 different floor managers who both ended up with titles I wasn't even allowed to apply for. When I asked about it, HR said, "We're looking for someone with more polish." Polish. I'd been sanding down their messes for years. But all right, I took that. Bought new shoes, got a tailored shirt, started speaking quieter in meetings, stopped bringing lunch from home because they said the smell was strong. Funny how you shrink yourself trying to fit into a place that never built a chair for you. Still, I kept pushing. I started documenting everything, tracking our inventory metrics, logging downtime, redesigning workflows. I built out a whole strategic plan how we could double capacity without even expanding the floor. Took me 6 weeks. Printed it bound, handed it to the director with my name right on the front. He nodded like he was going to read it. 2 months later, I saw that exact plan being pitched in a shareholders meeting. His name was on it. Mine wasn't mentioned once. So I learned my lesson. Started keeping 2 notebooks, one for them, one for me. And the one with my name on it, that one never left my side. It wasn't just the theft, It was the slow way they erased me, like I was useful, but not visible. Like I was valuable, but not viable. They'd call me when the numbers broke, when the trucks backed up, when the clients got loud. But when it came time for the boardroom, they sent Trevor. Trevor, with his fresh degree and 2 months of experience. They clapped when he spoke, but he used words I taught him. Ideas I drafted, Data I cleaned. The Friday before they fired me, I was the last one out the building. Security guard said, "You work too hard, man." I just smiled and said, "They'll see one day." Didn't know it'd come sooner than I thought. That Monday, when he fired me in front of everyone, when he told me to pack my desk, he thought he was teaching me a lesson. But what he didn't know was I'd already learned it. Long ago, in silence, in stolen ideas, in rooms where my name got left out but my fingerprints were all over the whiteboard. I left that building with nothing but a box and a plan they never valued. But that plan, it was mine. And it was about to become the foundation for something they couldn't copy, couldn't steal, and definitely couldn't stop. The first week after I got fired, I didn't tell nobody. Not Mama, not my sister, not even DeAndre from church, and he the type to sniff out drama faster than a deacon at a barbecue. I just went quiet. Each morning, I still woke up at 6 out of habit, put on my old work boots, stared out the window with a mug full of nothing. Just me, the silence, and a question I couldn't shake. What now? I'd given them my time, my sweat, my best ideas. And in return, they gave me a cardboard box and a hallway full of turned heads. The money got tight quick. Savings wasn't much. I'd been helping Mama with her meds, and I ain't never been the type to chase fancy. But when the rent hit different and the fridge sounded louder than it should, I felt it. That low hum of not enough, the kind of quiet that makes you doubt if you ever were enough. I applied to jobs, got ghosted, interviewed twice, both times they said overqualified. Which, let's be honest, is just a pretty word for, we don't want to pay you what you're worth. I started doubting myself. Thought maybe I should settle, take some gig warehouse job, maybe drive delivery till things got better. But then one night I found it, that old black notebook. The one with my plan. The system I'd built, the numbers I'd crunched, the map of how to run a logistics firm, smarter, leaner, cleaner. And I remembered that strategy they stole. It wasn't even the good version. I still had that, right there in my hands. That same night, I sat down on the floor, turned off all the lights, and lit a candle. Not because I was trying to be dramatic, just because power bills ain't no joke. But in that flicker, I felt something. Not anger, not pride. Focus. Like a whisper from my daddy sitting on the porch, swing back immobile, saying, "You don't need a seat at their table, boy. You got the tools, just build your own." So I did what I always do when I hit rock bottom. I started drawing blueprints. Day by day, I mapped it out. What kind of startup capital I'd need, which vendors I could trust, what license, what tech, what legal. I researched like my rent depended on it, 'cause it did. And then I remembered something I'd almost forgot. My Uncle Jerome had left me a little land down south. Didn't look like much, just an old storage unit and a half-acre patch of dry grass. But it had a registered business address. And that's all I needed. I called a friend, Lisa, from back in the day. She'd made her way into financial consulting for minority-owned businesses. I told her, "Lisa, I'm trying to build something." She said, "You always were. Let's get to work." We spent 2 months grinding. Wrote proposals, filed paperwork, pitched small-time investors with nothing but a worn-out slide deck and the truth. Most said no. One said yes. It wasn't much. Just enough for a desk, a laptop, and a logo on the wall that read, Northbridge Logistics, Black-owned, Black-built, Black-led. I didn't cry when I saw it. I just leaned back in that borrowed office chair and whispered, "All right now, let's see what they missed." They say when you build something from nothing, the first brick is belief. And Lord knows belief was all I had. No fancy budget, no big-name endorsements, just a tiny one-room office with paint still smelling fresh, a folding chair, and a second-hand laptop held together by faith and duct tape. But I had my notebook, I had my numbers, and I had my name on the lease. That made it real. Northbridge Logistics started out like a whisper. 3 clients, all local. Small deliveries, medical equipment, school supplies, even church pews. One time. Didn't matter what it was, if it moved, we made it happen. I drove the truck myself those first few months. Me, the former ops coordinator who once oversaw a 40,000 square foot warehouse, now back behind the wheel, sweating through my collar in August heat. But let me tell you something. There's a special kind of dignity in hauling your own dream up the hill. I hired Malik first. Kid was barely 24, fresh out of community college. Bright, hungry, and most of all, respectful. Told him in the interview, "You don't work for me, you work with me. Big difference." He nodded like he understood. And he did. Within weeks, he was routing deliveries like a pro troubleshooting tech issues before I even noticed them. Then came Brielle, logistics analyst from a company upstate. Left her job after her manager called her too assertive. I welcomed her with a smile and said, "Around here, we don't call that assertive. We call it qualified." By the end of our first quarter, we doubled our capacity. By month 6, we landed a government subcontract through a diversity small business program Lisa found. It wasn't huge, but it got us seen. And once we got seen, the phone started ringing. Folks were tired of the same old vendors dropping the ball. They wanted efficiency, they wanted reliability, and they were willing to take a chance on the new folks across town. I stayed quiet on social media. No big announcement, no look at me now. But behind the scenes, I was building something sturdy. A business model with soul. A company where Black and brown folks didn't have to dim their light to keep their job. Where folks got credit for the work they did and respect for the work they hadn't even done yet. One night, as I locked up the office, I got an alert on my phone. Ironcrest Logistics appoints interim CEO amid financial restructuring. I stared at the screen. Didn't smile, didn't smirk. Just whispered, "It's startin'." Turns out they'd been bleeding clients for months. Bad service, internal turnover, legal disputes over intellectual property. Yep, that strategic plan finally bit 'em back. And me? I was about to step into a room I'd never thought I'd see again, but this time, on my own terms. See, Brielle had a cousin who worked in commercial real estate. One day, she burst into my office and said, "Boss, you ain't gonna believe this." She handed me a listing. It was Ironcrest's old headquarters, being sold off in chunks. One of them, the top floor executive suite, furnished, vacant, and cheap. I bought it. Didn't even haggle. Signed the deed with the same pen they gave me when they fired me. Sometimes God really do write full circle stories, in bold ink. I didn't post a single picture. No ribbon cutting, no humble brag. No long caption talking about how far I've come. That ain't my way. I just moved into that top floor suite like I belonged there because I did. Set my nameplate on the desk. Sat in the same leather chair my old boss used to swivel in when he told me I wasn't enough. Now it had a better view. And a better man sitting in it. Northbridge kept growing. Word of mouth spread fast in our city. Folks was tired of being overcharged and overlooked. We kept our rates fair, our service tight, and our values real. By our second year, we had 22 employees, major clients, national accounts, and an office culture where folks laughed without fear, and Black women wore their natural hair without side eyes from HR. It felt like restoration. Like all the little cuts they gave me in that old office were finally starting to heal. But I never said a word about Ironcrest. Not in meetings, not in press interviews, not even when folks asked if I used to work somewhere else. I just said, "I've been around." Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let the silence speak. One morning, Lisa stormed into my office with her iPad raised high. "They're spiraling," she said. Sure enough, Ironcrest's website was down. Their last quarterly report, brutal. Layoffs, contract losses, CEO replacement. And the kicker, one of their top clients, a logistics distributor I used to handle before they reassigned me, had just signed with Northbridge. Full transfer. Multi-year deal. I sat with that news for a minute. Felt it move through me like warm wind. This wasn't revenge. This was alignment. The world was correcting itself not with fire or noise, but with grace and justice and paperwork signed in my name. That same afternoon, we got a visitor. Reception buzzed me. "There's a Mr. Raymond from Ironcrest asking to speak with you." I almost said no, but curiosity won, so I told them to send him up. He walked in looking 10 years older. Same khakis, same nervous energy. Didn't even sit. Just stood there in my office, staring at the floor, then at me. "We didn't know what we had," he finally said. I looked at him, calm, didn't smile, didn't nod, just waited. "If there's any chance, we could collaborate, merge, consult, anything." His voice cracked on that last word. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out over the skyline. Then I said, "You remember the day you fired me?" He swallowed hard. "I do." "Good," I said, "because I don't." Turned back around, sat back down. "We'll pass." He left without another word. Didn't even look back. And me? I opened my drawer, pulled out the same black notebook I carried all those years, flipped to the last page, and wrote, "You ever walk into a building that used to own you and feel the air shift when you take a breath?" That's what it felt like. Except this time, I wasn't walking in with a badge. I was walking in with a deed. It started with an auction notice. Ironcrest was defaulting on multiple assets, too many unpaid vendors, too much bad management. The whole thing was folding from the inside out like wet cardboard. I didn't even plan to buy it at first. But when Lisa sent me the court notice, Ironcrest Logistics, Inc., available for acquisition full rights, including IP and brand license, I leaned back in my chair, sipped my coffee, and whispered, "All right, let's close the circle." We didn't walk in as Northbridge. We walked in as a private holding group. No logo, no flash. Just a bid clean, quiet, and backed with cash. There were 2 other offers, neither close. Ironcrest was desperate. Within 10 days, the paperwork was signed. Just like that, I owned the company that once told me I was replaceable. But I didn't show up right away. No, I waited. Gave it a week. Let the emails trickle in. Former employees, panicked directors, vendors begging for a meeting. Even Trevor, remember him. The rising star who once got promoted over me reached out acting like we used to be friends. I didn't reply. Instead, I had Lisa organize a company-wide staff meeting. Mandatory attendance. Top floor. Same room where they fired me. Same glass table. Same chairs. Except this time, the only name on the door was mine. I showed up 5 minutes late on purpose. Walked in, wearing a charcoal gray suit, no tie, just calm power. The room went silent. No one knew what to do with themselves. Some folks avoided eye contact. Some leaned forward, squinting like they couldn't believe it. A few, the smart ones, stood up. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just placed my phone on the table, pulled out a legal folder, and said, "Let's get to it." A few gasped. One woman whispered, "No way." Then I opened the folder and slid the acquisition documents across the table. Ironcrest, their emails, their contracts, their legacy, now belonged to the man they kicked out in front of the whole office like a dog in the street. I made a short statement. "We're not here to punish. We're here to rebuild. But we're going to do it different this time, and if that makes you uncomfortable, there's the door." Nobody moved. Afterward, I walked through the halls. Took my time. Room by room. I saw my old cubicle. Still had the same scratch in the desk. Same dusty printer. But I didn't feel anger. I felt gratitude. Because I made it out. And I came back, not as the version they tried to break, but the man they could never imagine. Before I left that day, I took one last step. Went to the server room, the heart of operations. I stood there alone, looking at all the blinking lights. Then I whispered, "Let's rewrite this whole system." And we did. They say the best revenge is living well. I say the best revenge is owning the place they told you you'd never belong in. And not just owning it on paper. Owning it in posture, in principle, in peace. 6 months after the acquisition, Ironcrest no longer existed. Not by name, not by culture. We folded it into Northbridge. New logo, new mission, new rules. First thing I did, cleared out every plaque, every photo of the old executives off the walls. Put up framed prints of our team instead. Real people. Doing real work. Building something they could be proud of. And right in the middle of the main hallway, under the words, built different. We hung a photo of my mama in her church hat, smiling like she knew this day would come. I didn't keep all the employees. Some folks couldn't let go of the old way. Folks who still talked over women in meetings, still questioned every suggestion that didn't come from someone with a fancy degree, still said, "We've always done it this way," like that was supposed to mean something. They had to go. But I kept the ones who were humble enough to grow. And I hired new ones who didn't need to shrink who they were to collect a paycheck. We started mentoring programs, launched internship spots for HBCU students, held financial literacy classes once a month, mandatory for management, optional for staff. Because what good is a seat at the table if you're the only one eating? Sometimes, when the office is quiet, I walk past my old desk. It's been repainted. No scratch marks, no flickering lamp. But I remember every long night I sat there wondering if anybody saw me, if it was worth it. And now I get to answer that question every single day. Yes, it was worth it. Trevor tried to reach out again. Sent a message through LinkedIn this time. Said he admired my journey. I didn't block him. Didn't respond either. Some things don't need closure. Just distance. People ask if I ever plan to retire, if I've had enough. I tell them this. I ain't build this so I could sit down. I built it so others could stand taller. Because this ain't just a business. It's a blueprint. Proof that we don't need their permission, just our own vision, and the patience to outlast the noise. So if you listening to this and someone once told you you're not what we're looking for, or you should be grateful we gave you a chance, or even you're done here, I want you to remember me. Not for the suit, not for the comeback, but for the silence. Because when they closed their doors on me, I didn't knock. I built my own. And now, they work for me. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone still waiting to be seen. Not for clout, not for clicks, but because some stories deserve to sit in rooms they were once kept out of. Thank you for listening. Keep building.